push a button.
You might slide it just a little bit closer to you.
Okay. Okay, I guess call you to order and check, pray a prayer for us.
What does she issue on? What does she issue? She can go meet with they should meet see on come they will down to the meeting Jan Brown. I don't know. Pleading with the Creator, first of all, thanking the Creator for this good spring day, that soon will be a summer day, and thank the Creator for the water we drink, and the food we eat, and ask Him to bring a blessing on our council member Dan Brown, sick on him.
Thank you. June 24th, so, roll call.
Mike Kemper. Mark Collins here. Nick Kemper here. Jennifer Brown. Absent. Dave Young.
Here.
Jennifer Michelle.
Here.
Kevin Moore.
Thank you. Well, I want to welcome the audience tonight. Is there anyone here that would like to say their little piece right now or wait for later? I think I see Nathan Stoll back there working in the background, and he wants to tell us about something. Come right on up here to this microphone, Nate.
The Wards County Fire Department, they have open bids on a fire truck. I know we've been talking about it for a while. And they have one for $3,500 for the open bid starts, and it's a pretty good truck. They're taking off the pump, the hoses, and the radio. They're leaving the hose reel, the water tank, and the lights, and
So they're leaving the water tank.
yes, and it has a value of it of $2,000, the water tank alone. And the hose reel has a value of $500. And then the lights have a value of $800 to $900 on the truck. And the truck value alone is $3,500, if not more.
So you have several pictures here too.
Yes.
So you're saying that the opening bid is $3,500, which is basically the value of the truck. So they're
skin equipment and everything.
Finish out the truck.
Yep.
So what's your, I guess,
It would, I think it'd benefit the tribe and helping tribal members come have land, because when you have a fire, it can be very expensive on the landowner. I think it's around $200-300 an hour at a 3-hour minimum per truck.
Do you know if we could contract with the rural fire department in the area to help them?
Yeah, it would be able to help the rural areas too.
Would there need to be training for those that are going to be working on it?
Too much.
Some sort of training?
There is training out there, like, but I'm on the volunteer reforms on the rural fire department, and we have a training living there, we do training at the fire building, or here, and third in there.
Yeah.
And their OSU comes down and does training for free and all that.
Just give me a few minutes.
are you the fireman?
Volunteer firemen.
So you know how to drive that truck?
Yes. Yes. We have 5 tons we drive, no military trucks, tanker, everything.
What would be the liability?
How long do you have until we have to know whether we take it? You know, we haven't made an offer,
Oh, no.
but how long do we have before we can make it?
He said it will be taken out of their service in about a week to 2 weeks.
So I guess we need to get with accounting and search for a grant.
Well, with the week to 2 week deadline on it, I'm not sure. Have you looked and see, have you been able to see in Oklahoma? The state of Oklahoma has a rural fire department grant.
We have kind of researched a little bit, and there is grants out there, you just gotta do it.
Okay, I'm sorry. And I'm on a fire department grant page here right now, but the quick turnaround, I don't know that we can get.
Well, no, you don't have to have it like that, but if they're just taking it out of service, and maybe, it says opening bid, so
Yeah.
I just got to be opening bid at that time. Well, I guess we can take this under advisement, and if anyone has some ideas.
Have they set the deadline for their bid?
No, they're still taking stuff, getting their other truck prepared, so.
Oh, it could be a month, 2 months, maybe.
Yeah, I talked to Kerry Cox about 4:30, he said, in about a week to 2 weeks, I'll be ready.
Joe?
Is there some sort of liability insurance or something that we need to look at too? That the tribe would need to look at for someone on the truck that might get injured or something?
Yes, definitely look into that.
Okay.
Nathan, I think one thing that would help us make a decision too is if you would actually contact the area rural fire departments and get them to commit in writing that if they use our services and, or you know, if they wrote a letter of support that this is something that would help them
Right.
and what kind of money it would be for us if we did go out on a call for them. And I just found a link I'm going to send you, and in your spare time,
Okay.
you can go to there, because you have to sign up to actually get into the grant, but it's free to sign up. So I'm going to send you the link, and if you get stuck anywhere in that process, holler at me.
Okay. And I have contacted Bobby Talchi, Osage Nation, and he's very happy that we do thought of anything like that.
Yeah, I just haven't sent you an email or a letter of support.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda with the amendment of having NCI in here
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passed. 24 through 27. Okay, so just approve the okay. What was the amendments?
The amendment is to add NCII mid-year under other business.
Okay.
Try again. Here.
Check, check. Check.
Second.
Okay. Okay, this is ready for the minutes. April the 1st. I see one down here and I didn't know what to do about it, so I guess I'll ask Nate. On the first page, the fourth paragraph up from the bottom, says Nathan Young asked the vote be spread from the record. Do we have any idea?
Yes, spread to the record.
To the record. Okay.
It's a part of the district record.
C2 is not from.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Corrections to make for us? To the, over to the,
What's happening? What are we spreading? Okay, it's a corrections amendment.
Spread over.
okay. I make the motion that we accept the minutes with any corrections or additions.
Second motion.
Okay, I have a motion, a second on the floor to approve the minutes with corrections. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passed.
Here's a question.
There weren't any extras in there, I don't think.
Shannon? Do you have extra copies of the minutes for the audience? Here, Charles.
Here. Treasurer's report. The treasurer is absent today, so I guess you can look through your treasurer's report. I move that we accept the reports. We do. Oh, we do. I didn't hear that.
Nate and Brenda.
Oh, that was the same as the treasurer.
Treasurer.
That was the treasurer's report. I'm saying the packet.
Oh, the report was not.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the report packet.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion, a second on the floor to accept the reports in the packet. All in favor? Aye.
Did we have a second?
Yeah, she moved it, you said.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passed. We had a question asked last month about, okay, I wrote that. Janet, do we have that in our packets, the report on the numbers?
No, I just made a copy for you, and I have a copy.
So I do have a copy. It's Rick had asked the question last month about our numbers, and we looked that all up and so, are y'all sitting down? Because our report says that we only have 726 people under 18 in our tribe. That doesn't sound
That went down from general council. I guess the people turned of age.
Yes, because, so that leaves 9,000, which you close, Nate.
Just round.
9,003 or 400. Because everybody, it's broken down on this list from 18 to 29-year-olds, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, blah, 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 which it all adds up to 10,395. You do the math. That sounds awesome.
How many was it?
726 under 18.
People this room.
I think it's way
So like I do most council meetings, I start to,
Go ahead.
please encourage your children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews and cousins and everyone you know that's Delaware to get enrolled.
Sorry.
I think this just is a timely thing to mention here. I had a conversation with one of my brothers, and some time ago I hand carried so they could get their new identification card. I hand carried their passport IDs, all the appropriate documentation, and they never any of them got a card. So he talked about his children today. This morning he called me. We're going to go up there. I can't imagine that only my brothers have had that experience, and there are 4 of them. So if I count, there's probably about 7 children and grandchildren. So if we've not taken the time to acknowledge that the paper was brought here because I hand carried it and send them a card, maybe that's why.
How long ago was it? How long did you say it was that they...
Shirley was still here.
Oh, my. And it's been over a year ago.
But let me say this. Right after she left, I asked, Leslie came, I asked her about it, and she acted like those files were gone, that they'd have to resubmit. It's not a lot of money, but the passport photos cost $10.
What was the name?
Grisham,
So that was the last name, and there was
there's 4 of them. And of course, I had a kind of a similar experience, but mine was 2 years prior. I just kept coming back. All I'm trying to say is, I can give you 7 nieces and nephews, but my brothers are reluctant to go to the trouble to gather the paperwork and give it to me.
Right.
Because they don't respond. Well, we did not respond. And again, I don't think that we were an anomaly. So maybe we had more than even sent us the paperwork and we just don't know it.
Well, so Well, let's go back.
I'm just
Research this a
thinking,
little bit.
I'm thinking that we just need to take a look at the old files and see what's there that we can work, and maybe reach out to people that have tried to send paperwork. And, you know, I think
Okay.
that might make some people feel more included instead of excluded.
Chief, okay.
I have family that sent in several months ago and had not heard anything. Maybe we need to instigate a rule that once the people are put on the roll, that they immediately get sent a card.
Right.
Because I checked on it, yes, they're on the roll, but they haven't received their card.
So they don't know that they're on the roll.
Right.
Unless they were sitting here in this meeting and heard their name read.
Right. And I understand there's a lot to do and also in answering the phone and other things, but we just need to kind of have a step-by-step. When they get the paperwork, get it completed and approved, then immediately the cards need to go out.
Well, and they need to get entered into the system.
Right.
Well, because if they don't, then they're not counted on this right here.
Right.
So what you're saying though, when somebody sends in a packet of names, they get a card saying we've received it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that would help, but
Membership card.
once
Well,
they
yeah, they
get,
eventually get them. If they don't ever get the membership card, that would.
that's what she's saying. They were approved on the minutes, but they never got their card. Right.
Well, but she's saying they never were acknowledged they received it.
Well,
It should
I can't carry their documentation.
Oh, so you knew
If
that it
they were
got.
already on the rolls, but they just have never got a card. What I'm
Yeah,
saying
right.
is, I don't think we're the only ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the same thing with these children.
And there was no chance that it didn't get here by mail, because we had mailed them before, and same result. So I hand carry.
We do have, before we heard your problem, we recognized it, and we have a lady that's sitting with each of the departments and spending time with them and helping them with their processes to make sure that their processes are streamlined and see how they can be more organized and finding out what it is their special need is. And our enrollment department, is it tomorrow?
It's, we met today.
Are you going to Quapaw?
Wednesday.
Part of this problem is that we have a new computer system, and it's been difficult to get training for that. But we discovered that the Quapaws have the same enrollment system, and so a group is going over on Wednesday to sit down with the Quapaws and study that system, and so maybe Leslie can find out where she's slowing down.
I think all that's a great idea, but I think you're going to have to look for your backlog.
Yeah.
Correspondence that you've been getting, or that was hand delivered, and if I need to, I can probably give you the exact date that I hand carried it. So I feel like it's in the file, but I feel like for whatever reason we've decided that we weren't going to look at that old correspondence.
Another problem, and I'm not making excuses, I'm just saying that we have been researching what the holdup is, was that this particular computer program, like many others, we only had one license for it, and it took her a long time to get us to understand that if only one person can be in on the computer, if they're taking a phone call, they can't be putting in stuff. So we've ordered, I believe, a second license so that two people can be working on it.
I don't think it's been ordered yet. This council has to approve it.
I thought we were.
Have
Curtis, did the second Prodigy license get ordered yet?
I don't have an answer. I'm looking over at Greg, and the answer is no, even though we actually approved it.
Right, and I knew that Leslie had told me she had contacted them too. So we'll follow up on that.
we have no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. A year's time and you haven't had any, and you've done it twice, there's no excuse for it. It's like she's just waiting when someone asks for it. I guess you already have asked for them.
Leslie's response is that I have to produce the documentation again. And you can imagine that when I even mentioned that to any of my brothers in conversation,
Unacceptable.
they were really upset.
Very unacceptable.
We're not doing nobody, I've got to go down and yell at them
What about,
for a CDIP card.
oh, for a CDI, that takes 2 years, I think.
They said 18 months, and it's headed out 2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years. It's like getting an eagle.
I think we should just look to make our process cleaner and quicker, and, maybe our numbers would change significantly, which is really what we
Right.
need.
I agree. Okay, we are up to new business. And we have some resolutions. We have a DFMS submitting for a 8A classification.
Part of the requirement of the application is that the review board receives a resolution from the tribal council supporting the business, particularly because it has not been in existence for more than 2 years, so they are able to waive the 2-year rule for Indian tribes because the tribe is back in the business.
And so this, in good standing, is what this is, so is it the right timing?
Well, and so we can sign the resolution now and approve for Verna to review to make sure that their paperwork is in order and she can do a certificate of good standing. But I asked her to wait for to actually issue a date on that certificate because they wanted to be within 60 days, I think.
But she's got to do something too.
Right.
Okay.
Did I send you a sample? Sample of good standing?
I don't remember seeing it, but I'll get it.
And you don't have to, I was just.
I'll make a motion that we accept, that we take this resolution. Support it, or whatever, however you say it. Approve it.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, a second on the floor to approve this 8A application resolution. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passed.
What you're voting on. Is there any way those can be put on the website prior to the meeting?
I don't think prior, but after the meeting, after they're approved, just because a lot of times they've got a lot of typos in them or they don't say quite what we want them to say, so we have to redo them.
And I used to read them out loud as we were voting on them. So I can read it out loud.
Yes.
This says, Resolution 213, number 22. Whereas the Delaware Tribe of Indians is federally recognized by the Secretary of the United States Department of Interior as evidenced by the Constitution adopted and ratified on May 27, 2009. And whereas the Delaware Tribal Council is authorized by the Constitution and bylaws of the Delaware Tribe of Indians to represent and act in all matters that concern the general welfare of the tribe. And whereas the Delaware Tribal Council is also authorized by the Constitution and bylaws of the Delaware Tribe of Indians to authorize, charter, establish, and regulate associations and corporations formed for the benefit of the Delaware Tribe of doing benefit on Delaware lands. And whereas the Delaware Tribal Council chartered the wholly owned tribal entity, Delaware's Facilities Management Solutions, LLC, on October 1st, 2012, to further tribal economic development. And whereas the Delaware Tribal Council recognizes DFMS is currently in good standing with the tribe. Now therefore be it resolved that the Delaware Tribal Council supports the submission of the 8A application by DFMS.
Okay, so you can't post that ahead of time because after you vote on it, you may change the wording?
Well, before we vote on it, we have an opportunity to, when someone makes a motion to say, I make a motion to approve resolution 213-22, and then someone says they second it, then that brings an opportunity for discussion. And so in discussion, you could say, well, I don't know if they're in good standing, or whatever.
That could
discussion
Shows a
on it.
draft. And shows a draft.
Who discusses,
Stack with a draft on it.
who discusses the resolution before it's voted on? If we don't know what we're voting on,
Who does what?
who does the discussion before you vote on it? Now, you've already voted on that in the past. We didn't have any idea what you were voting on.
We're voting. We're voting for you. We're the council.
For us, but we don't know what you're voting for us for.
Well, do you now?
Yeah, we need resolutions. We need copies of the resolutions before they're voted on. And I don't think I'm the only one that agrees with that. Why should you sit up there and vote on resolutions if we have no idea what you're voting on?
Because as the Constitution grants the power for the tribal council to do certain things, and that's what I was reading in the first part of the resolution. So that's why the tribal council has the
So
power
we
to
have
vote
no
on
say,
them.
so the tribal members have no say so.
No, that's not true.
Why isn't it true if we don't know what they are?
Well, because when we were just voting on it, there was a point when there was a discussion period, and anybody could stand up and
Between you
discuss
guys,
it.
we can discuss because.
But the floor is open for discussion at that point. When there's a motion to accept and a second, then she says, is there any discussion? And anybody can discuss.
We
That's
didn't
not
know
just
what
us.
we was discussing on.
Then you should raise your hand and say, we'd like to know more about this, like Joe did, and I
Just set
got
up
more.
closer.
Yeah, but you'd already seconded it before you even noticed she had her hand up.
We have to second it before it can be brought to the floor. It's not open for discussion until it's brought up in a motion. I don't know.
Well, I still think it needs to be changed and everybody
We do
can
have
have
it.
copies of those.
We do have it. Oh, right. We were in discussion because she asked that. So Annette had made the motion. Verna seconded it, and then we were in discussion.
You had voted. You had voted.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got written down all approved.
Okay.
That's what I had. I wouldn't have signed it if we didn't. Did you have something you wanted to, Joe? Did somebody want to add something?
Well, I think maybe to clarify the issues, the reason we take the time to come is we want to try to be involved and understand what's going on. So all we're saying is help us stay with you in this process. It doesn't, I don't think it's intended to be arbitrary or cumbersome to you. Even if you could put it on the board so that we could just understand what it is that you're talking about. I mean, it would save paper, but you could post it so that we're here. We could be. I mean, that's why we come.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Where's it? Our tech guy back on his phone tower.
Well, and I was told that Cece would need to put it on the electronic bulletin board, and Cece was out today. I took it to her, but she was out.
Oh, and she, I think she puts it up on the board for the lunch program during the day, but there wouldn't be a problem with putting it up on the board
That's exactly
at night.
Oh, okay. I was told it was Cece, so I took it to Cece today, but she was told.
So I guess we did try to do that.
Somebody else needs to learn how to operate that machine.
I wasn't here earlier to know that helped.
Right.
Any suggestions that make things more understandable or transparent for you? We are never trying to hide anything, so.
And I'm not saying you're trying to hide something, it's just, I like to know what you're voting on, and if I disagree with it, and I hear you say yes or no, then that kind of helps me know who I might vote for general council next time.
I completely understand.
But if I don't know what you're voting on, I don't know whether I agree with you or not till after the fact.
And I have been in meetings where they put them on the board, on the screen.
Yeah, that's what we're talking
And we
about.
did talk about it last week, that CC was the one that did that, and I guess maybe someone else needs to learn how to do that for cases like this.
If you just play from a laptop,
Thumb drive.
you won't make changes, you have to make changes.
Right, while we're looking at it, that we go to meetings that do that, but
I can't do everything.
we're getting there. We're getting there.
We're getting more high-tech every time.
Right, but I mean, there ought to be a way that the general public of the Delaware people know what these resolutions are besides 2013-22?
Well, the early agenda that was out on Facebook, it gave a brief description.
On Facebook. But
Yeah.
if you put it on Facebook, why can't you put it on the
Well, that's
website?
right. But this is a different one than what
Jana?
was posted
It was on the
outside.
website.
Jana, on the agenda, will you write a description of the title?
Yeah, and I had two of them. I had one that had the description, and they put that on Facebook and the website.
Okay.
And it was also, I posted it on at least one of the buildings. And then I had made another copy, and they got messed up. So that's why it's not on this one today. But there is one on the website and on Facebook.
I could not find it on the website.
Oh. That wasn't you. That was Chris who was supposed to post it on the website.
Yeah, Chris was absent today, and so was Cece, two of the key people that would have had those out there for y'all to see them.
And I don't do that. I don't know how to do that.
I mean, you would have just had the resolutions today. You wouldn't have had them last week.
Sometimes.
They usually got one.
Around 1 at 5 o'clock today.
Well, they get corrected, and so then I have to go in and make corrections. So sometimes they're different from day to day. I mean, they can differ. They may change 3 times today before we ever even start the meeting. It might change. Well, I got a resolution after the meeting was already supposed to be started. So it changes like that. So it can be different every time you look at it. So it's hard to get them reposted and reposted and reposted and keep up with that.
Just a waste of paper.
But if we made a deadline of 15 days before the meeting that we absolutely had to have the resolution in, then I wouldn't have had this resolution in, and it would have held me up for another month to be able to submit the 8A contract, or 8A
Well,
application.
it's the timeliness of it. There are just some things that came up last week that we
Right.
had to have, on Friday, that we had to have a resolution for today that we couldn't have known in advance. And the timeliness is you may miss that deadline and you may not get something because if you turn it in.
And I can see that happen sometimes, but not on all those resolutions.
Yeah, some of them were kind of cut and dry. Well, no, enrollment wasn't out till 5 o'clock today either.
Right. I think I got enrollment about 4:45.
Yeah, for sure. And they pull people
And I talk to people about the deadlines. I send everybody the deadlines. But the thing is, that, people get sick or things happen and they don't send them to me. So I don't have it to post. Like I said, we can post the agenda on the website and on Facebook, but I can't promise you it's going to be the same agenda that you're going to come here and see tonight. Just like the ones they saw on Facebook, not the same agenda.
Jana, if we could even get the resolutions on a thumb drive last minute, CC doesn't have to be here. I can plug it into the computer.
Anybody can plug it into the computer on there.
Yeah, we could do that. I'm just saying, if you're saying to put it on the website, it can change.
I might suggest
Dramatically.
a laptop with those on it, and they can plug that into the
Right.
monitor over here, and they can be responsible for displaying what's going to talk about at that time.
Right,
I can do it, anyone can do it, just take the laptop.
right. And there's a laptop that's over there already, and it's already plugged in. And Jana can bring the last minute flash drive up with all the corrections and put it in. That's a great idea. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
That might even encourage more people to come. There's always hope, right?
Have a show. Okay, the next resolution is it's a resolution that the Tribal Council supports the Delaware Tribal Housing Program to reclassify Chelsea Housing Unit. So,
Is it 23?
it is 2030.
This is Resolution 213-23. Whereas the Delaware Tribal Council is authorized by the Constitution and the bylaws of the Delaware Tribe to represent and act in all matters that concern the general welfare of the tribe. And whereas the Delaware Tribal Council is aware of the need to provide clean, safe, affordable housing to low-income Native American applicants on a waiting list for Rogers County. Whereas the Delaware Tribal Council is authorized to manage and control tribal property, including tribal housing and related tribal housing programs, policies, and procedures. Now therefore be it resolved that the Delaware Tribe of Indians authorizes the Delaware Tribe Housing Program to classify the housing unit located at 102 Townsend Street in Chelsea, Oklahoma, from home ownership to rental for the purpose of a vacancy and providing housing to a qualified family on the waiting list.
I so move.
Second.
I just wanted to discuss. I just say, Anita, Annette, no, you make a motion, second. And so under discussion, I just wanted to explain in a little plainer English. What that meant was there's a 5-bedroom home in Chelsea that became open, and it was classified under home ownership, which means that tribal members or other eligible Indians are it's kind of a contract for deed situation. But in review of the waiting list of people that were looking for a home and the home itself, including the upkeep of the home because it is a larger home, it was determined that there wasn't anyone on the waiting list that was ready to move to Chelsea that needed 5 bedrooms. However, there was a person on the waiting list that had 4 children that wanted to live in Chelsea, but she wasn't able to qualify for the home ownership program. She was able to qualify for the rental program. And so that suggestion was made, and we verified with HUD that that was okay to change that designation.
May I be recognized to add to that, please? I just wanted to add that the husband is Delaware, so we would be placing a Delaware family. And in doing so, we would get an 100% occupancy in the second dying 1 and 2 units.
Just make sure all those kids are on the rolls.
You can't have that house till you're on a roll. Well, we don't know.
For years I've been asking, why is there a vacancy list and a waiting list? I don't understand that. And they have finally cracked the code, so good job, housing team.
Maybe a little different classifications on some of these houses. Okay, so call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Passed. All in favor? So the next one is we're supporting the housing program again by amending the eligibility, admissions, and occupancy policy.
This is Resolution 2013-24. Whereas the Delaware Tribal Council is authorized by the Constitution and bylaws of the Delaware Tribe to represent and act in all matters that concern the general welfare of the tribe, and whereas the Delaware Tribal Council is authorized to manage and control tribal property, including tribal housing and related housing programs, policies, and procedures, and whereas the Delaware Tribal Council is aware of the need to provide clean, safe, affordable housing to low-income Native American housing applicants on a waiting list in its program service area by amending its eligibility, admissions, and occupancy policy to allow the housing program to determine the eligibility of non-elders for placement into vacant housing units normally classified as elder housing units. And whereas the Delaware Tribal Council also reserves the right to give immediate priority placement to qualified applicants to be placed in vacant housing in the event of an emergency, which may be caused by a natural disaster, housing displacement, or other financial or economic hardships. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Delaware Tribal Council of the Delaware Tribe of Indians approves this resolution amending the eligibility, admissions, and occupancy policy of the Delaware Tribe Housing Program.
I move to approve the resolution.
policy was limited to, I believe it was an act of God. And so there weren't a lot of people that were displaced by act of God, but there were a lot of people that were displaced because they didn't have a home, because they didn't, for other circumstances. And so in reviewing the people that were coming in and applying for housing, emergency housing, one of the housing specialists told me, she said, I had this lady, an Indian lady, standing in my office, and she had 2 babies with her, and I had to tell her I didn't have any emergency housing for her. But I put her on the waiting list. But there's 12 vacant units over here that we're not using, and so we're able to research that and find out that we could also change that policy. In addition, we had vacant units in the same. Curtis is probably going to have to help me out a little bit too. We studied the waiting list and studied the vacancies, and there were single people or couples that were on the waiting list that we felt could move into the housing units that were designated for elder housing that had been open for a very long time because there weren't elders that were interested in moving to Chelsea at this time.
I think you stated that quite well.
So again, thank you so much, you guys, for working so hard on that. Why is there a vacancy and why is there waiting? And so
Our vacancy list and our waiting list are merging into no people needing houses and no houses empty.
However, we're also going to start advertising for housing in the areas around Chelsea and let people know. So, because if we don't have a waiting list, then we don't have a need for housing. So we want to get a really clear picture of who out there needs housing and where they want to live. So it's kind of a revitalization, I guess, of the housing program.
Rick?
How long is an emergency? Is it like 1 year or what? Like your house burns down, you got 6 months to get in there, or is it a year? What is the time thing?
There is no definition put into our policy at this time.
So my house burned down, I could be 2 years from now.
I think we get into an annual recertification. There is an annual recertification for all of our housing. Pardon me?
Is that in the ordinance too, the annual?
It's not in here, it's inherent in the program. So, under the annual...
You can never vote. So this is just I remember this. So,
I just prepared the resolution for consistency with the poll. And then I took it to Ms. Lewis for her decision at her report.
Nate, what did you say? Can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. We actually voted on it by poll vote earlier.
Why? Was it a poll vote? Was it an emergency?
As far as we're concerned, it was.
We thought we had an emergency at the time because we needed this thing pronto, but we got an extension of a week, so it turns out that we still have it in our hand tonight instead of going on to the bank or whatever.
Well, so do you just want to avoid that poll vote and do the resolution since it's not written like a poll vote?
I'd like to do that.
But you're not saying what 25 is.
Well, we
She's getting
haven't
ready
got
to
to
read
it yet.
Oh, she's getting ready to read it.
Nate, since you wrote it, would you like to read it, please?
Okay. A resolution of the Tribal Council of the Delaware Tribe of Indians to authorize payment of certain funds to LTI Enterprises, LLC. Resolution 2013-25. Whereas the Delaware Tribe of Indians is federally recognized by the Secretary of the United States of the Interior as evidenced by the Constitution adopted and ratified May 27, 2009, and whereas the Tribal Council is authorized by the Constitution and bylaws of the Delaware Tribe of Indians to represent and act in all matters that concern the general welfare of the tribe, whereas the Tribal Council is also authorized by the Constitution and bylaws of the Delaware Tribe of Indians to authorize, charter, establish, and regulate associations and corporations formed for the benefit of the Delaware Tribe of doing business upon, but should be for doing business upon Delaware lands. And whereas the Delaware Tribal Council chartered the wholly owned tribal entity LTI Enterprises LLC to further tribal economic development, and now therefore be it resolved that the Delaware Tribal Council authorizes the Chief Financial Officer to withdraw funds of $10,000 and $40,000 from their appropriate accounts to be used as earnest money for certain land transactions. Does that sound correct?
I don't even know what you're talking about. Break it down, let me know.
We're going to buy some land, and we're going to put some earnest money down.
Where are you going to buy the land? Is that a secret too?
It would be considered under any law until we purchase it, especially under Oklahoma law, because once they find out it's an Indian tribe buying the land, then what was 5,000 an acre becomes 10,000 an acre, or 20. So,
And what is this land supposed to be used for?
Economic development.
economic development.
Housing and
We're going to put tribal services on there. We're going to put, I hope, a housing project on there. We're looking forward to trying to put a clinic on there. And it's in an area that we feel like we have a lot of tribal members, but we know we can. Is that correct, Jennifer? By the data we've been provided. But neither do we want them to know that we're buying it, because everybody thinks that we're just flush with money.
You're putting tribal offices on there?
We're eventually going to put tribal offices on
And
there.
we have these here? Is this going to be in Oklahoma?
it won't disturb these offices.
No, it won't be no. They will not disturb this office. And what we're doing is we're trying to extend our service area to get money so we can serve more members. And
So you're talking Kansas land, I would assume.
could be Texas.
No.
Ernest, since this is it's filmed, it's on the internet, we need to have a discussion about it, not on the internet, please.
Do what?
We need to talk to, we don't have a problem talking to tribal members, but this gets filmed and it gets put on the website, and we're not interested in putting it on the website.
Well, darn, y'all wants to tell us about it. Would that not be a good idea?
Well, you're here for lunch every day, we talk about it later.
As Nate said, if that's discussed, and there's even a possibility that maybe some land we're looking at, the cost that's going to go sky high if it gets out. So it needs to be kept quiet.
But I do want to let you know that the money is, the money voted on here comes from, is the program, like, is the part of CPA, part of it is housing.
It's from the housing, Delaware, what do you call it? Delaware
Proceeds of sale money that has been growing over the years and not getting much investment. I mean, not getting return on investment.
I saw that.
Are we voting?
Oh,
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion, second on the floor. We already had the discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Those, abstentions, pass, all in favor.
Now, if I may, once we get these people under contract and the price firm, then we can talk about it.
That's next
Surely
week.
tell me beforehand, aren't you?
You're fine.
You all right?
What'd you say?
Might have to have you sign.
You got to sign it, you're not spoken.
I would drive it.
Okay.
All right.
I should have signed that letter.
Well then, gentlemen who wrote this didn't spell check.
That's why,
Or grammar.
that's why I made you read it.
I know that.
resolution 2013-26. And Jennifer, would you like to tackle all those names?
Sure. Wow.
There's 31 on.
31. Wow. What's this?
Oh,
This is our tribal membership resolution. We do one of these each month. Whereas the tribal council is authorized by Article 5 of the Constitution and bylaws of the Delaware Tribe, 1982, to represent the Delaware Tribe and act in all manners that concern the general welfare of the tribe. And whereas the Delaware Tribal Council is authorized by the Delaware Tribal Membership Act to approve the following individuals that have been approved by the enrollment director as eligible for the tribal membership. And I'd like to have her make a correction to her template to update that to say 2009. Or you could say that it was written in 82 and approved subsequently in 2009. Whereas the listed individuals and their calculated blood quantum shall be as follows, and I don't read their blood quantum aloud, but I am going to read their names. Bridget Jean Jenkins, Brooke Ashlyn Bernard, Brendan Francois Bernard, Miranda Shea Compton, Courtney Darlene France, Carson Stewart Perkins, Casey Heath Perkins, James Ryan Spencer Stockdale, Joseph Dominique Stockdale, Kristen Ann Stockdale, Cash Connor Colwood, Connor Ray Leon Turner, Akashay Liana Faye Turner, Kylan Lee Ray Turner, Heather Dawn Stevie Turner, Christopher Michael Ray Kopic, Larry Wayne Kopic, Adriana Marie Kopic, Madeline May Kopic, Mark Allen Kopic, Jessica Beth Kopic, Brooke Allen Kopic, sounds like we got a whole family there, David Lawrence Geyer, David Don Jackson, Donna Jo Jackson Rodebush, Matt Lucas Rodebush, Kenneth Scott Rodebush, Carter Lee Hayes, Logan Kalak Holler, Chance Harper Holler, and Taylor Morgan Holler. So that was 31 people that got enrolled this month.
I move we accept it.
Second. Discussion.
Lawrence, second. And would you like to speak, sir?
Are you under discussion yet, Chief?
Yes,
Oh,
right now.
thank
Right
you.
now.
Well, you know, after the discussion we had about our enrollment department, as we go to passing a resolution like this, I'm kind of like the tribal council. Shouldn't we have cards all ready to go? When you pass this resolution, that should be the next step. The cards should be already prepared, ready to go. So it's a matter of, to me, within a week, that we ought to be able to send cards out, and they know that it got approved, because when it's presented to you in resolution form, our staff should have done all of the work necessary and vouched for everything up to that point.
But and from what I understand, they do they have to do all the research, and then they present it to the tribal council, and then they have to put it into the computer to generate the card. And so that is, I understand that is where the holdup is, because they've only been able to enter one record at a time because of the licensing issue. But I think that we're on the path to a better name.
Right. I'm aware of following the staff development enrollment project.
I heard them having a victory the other day because they got 10 people put in the computer. It's like, wow, that doesn't...
And how far are you behind now?
They can
About 10 employees.
But I like the concept of within a reasonable period of time. You know.
And maybe you could follow up with Libby.
I will indeed.
If she's figured out where that can go.
Chief Jones,
I realize.
I'd like to make a motion that membership cards shall be sent to every new shall.
Could you hold that till we pass? We have a motion on the floor already.
Thank you, Chief. I agree with
Thank
everything.
you.
Like, as Jennifer said, until the council approves them, they are not members. And only after we approve them can she go forward with it. So, now, I know that it's difficult and we have a lot to do to speed things up, and we have to take into consideration the restraints we also put on things.
Verna, could I add something to that? Possibly we could, if she has another batch, before she processes another 30 people, she just puts a moratorium on processing what's come in until she gets all the ones that she's already has into there and gets her card sent out. If there may be a drag, but there's a drag anyway. I mean, the people aren't going to know the difference because they haven't got their cards anyway.
You know, there is another option that we could look at, and there's an employee that comes in after those people that are on the rolls leave, or after the people that are in enrollment leave, and he's at the desk where that computer has the enrollment on it. Maybe he could be doing some inputting at night. He knows how to use it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Vernon?
Is it in the bylaws that the names have to be approved by the council once they've already been checked out through Leslie and through everything else?
Let me look. I have my phone. Oh, wait a
It's
minute.
in the Enrollment Act.
Enrollment Act.
It's more or less a formality, Verna, but if somebody in this room said, well, wait a minute, I know that family, they're not Delaware, and they slip through some way, and then the audience out here, as the general counsel would say, no. Although, since that has never happened in our life, I don't think, she could already had the cards made up possibly, and just pull them off out, and pull the ones that weren't ratified out, or that the general council did not approve. And
So
then,
this is what I was thinking that we might get down on some time is the council meets once a month. So she's going to have that buildup of names for a month before she can ever make the cards to be sent out, correct?
well, that's not the real problem. Taking a month was not unreasonable. The thing that is really bad is that she submits about 30 people or 20 people a month, and for the last 8 months or a year that she hasn't gotten them sent the cards out. Am I correct? That's the way I understand it anyway. And that isn't acceptable. A month is acceptable, but we're better than the Cherokee Nation. 18 months is way too long. It would seem to me to have to wait for a card. I don't care what tribe you're in.
That's even Cherokee Nation to wait 2.5 years, and there was no telling how many people they got down there working on those things.
They have an enormous amount of people working. I think that if we can get them out in a month, that would be a colossal, Bonnie Jo.
I just think that you tell the person in charge of it, you do this. When I worked, I was told what I did, and I had to do it. If I had 20 extra minutes to stand around and talk to somebody, that was 20 minutes I could be at my desk working.
That's
You can
right.
walk in down there and find people sitting around talking all the time. Put them to work. Tell them this is the procedure. Get it done.
Well, and they're very particular about how many people actually have access to the enrollment program, since it does have a lot of confidential information. So if you do walk by the enrollment director's office, she is not standing around talking.
Has been.
We'll say, get to work. You're the trust board.
There's something else we have to take into consideration, and that is the privacy of the people that are
That's what
enrolled.
I said. That's what she
Okay, I
said.
didn't hear you say that. You're talking. I'm sorry. But yeah, we need to take that into consideration.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Passed. All in favor. Now, Chet, I would entertain your motion again.
My motion is that every new enrollee that this council has approved, that our office shall issue them a tribal membership card within 30 days after they're approved.
Chet, could you amend your motion to address, I know that there's a backlog right now. Could you address the backlog? Because at this point, they're in violation of the resolution, and what's the consequence?
Yes, I would amend the motion. I don't know how big the backlog is, but it is another 120 days enough to clear the backlog.
Yes, I would say so.
Charlie?
Would it be advisable to amend that to say that since it is a backlog, the status of that backlog be part of the next month's resolution, telling what the status of the backlog is, so that you can track it properly?
That's good.
Ty?
And I think it's not only on your newly recognized enrollees, but on people that provide documentation for a replacement card, which my brothers had children removed, for them. So we know you have, I would guess you have a tremendous backlog. And want to quantify it, you're on the right track.
So you know that your relatives' children got enrolled.
I know my brothers are enrolled that never had a card. And I hand carried that document, those documents for 4. None of them got cards.
Now, why is she saying,
I've done that twice.
why is she wanting that? Or is this another relative that she's asking for documentation on?
No,
Yeah.
the response I got was you're going to have to re-provide the same documentation.
So,
And that's why I got this call this morning, from my youngest brother, who said, are you going to, is this software? Does it make sense?
right.
You know how siblings are. It's kind of hard on me, and he has been hard on me. But, again, I don't think...
Sissy, do something.
Yes, I don't think we're the anomaly, that's what I'm trying to get over.
I'm afraid you're right.
And it's not just the new people, I think you have other people that have... So I would say that you not only want to quantify your backlog, get your hands physically on where those files are. You may have to do some outreach. I don't want to tell you how to do your business. You may have to do some outreach to people that you have correspondence that looks like they've required or requested cards. And then if you have problems with that, have somebody, and I'll be honest, I volunteered more than one time to help with the backlog. And Curtis and I talked about it in the past, and I talked to Leslie about it.
What did Leslie tell you when you talked to her?
That I'd have to have new documentation.
And you've done it twice.
No, when you volunteered to help on the backlog.
When?
What did she say when you volunteered to
When I talked to Curtis about it.
And then you went and got all those babies.
No, it's still, and the last time I talked to him about it was that, if I knew what we anticipated the window to be, then I can make arrangements. Because I know that we have a backlog. And I'm not the only one. I'm sure you can find other people that are capable that can help you with the backlog and would be more than willing to do it.
And maybe that help could come in the form of actually putting the package together to send it out.
I think you could do a nice, for new members, you could do a nice welcoming letter. You give them a copy of the resolution where they were approved and get their card to them. People that are asking for subsequent replacement cards, if there's a problem with the correspondence they send us, we ought to be doing an acknowledgement letter that says, hey, I got your stuff, XYZ is missing, if you'll get it to us, it's just business.
All this stuff can be done in forms.
Correct. It's not rocket science.
I know there's a little grandchild right here of an employee that she's been trying to just get her on this list and it's had an awful time and, all kinds of excuses. Rick?
I think Annette's right. I think we need to have a moratorium that anything that comes in the day, you're just not going to process. And give those other ladies, whatever you got in the background right now, hey, that's your priority. You should tell them, hey, don't process any more new ones coming in until we get this filled up. I think the moratorium that Annette says is exactly what you need to do.
This is exactly what we're
And then go with Chetty's 4 months on the getting caught up. You have to give them a deadline.
Somebody has to know, quantify that, and somebody has to manage it to completion.
Okay, I still have a motion on the floor. Who seconded Chetty's motion? Annette.
Jennifer asked him to amend it.
Right.
And I did, to
Jennifer, read that back.
20 days, the backlog.
I had that Chet made a motion that all of the membership cards shall be mailed within 30 days of tribal council approval, and that the backlog has 120 days to be cleared out, and a report should be made to the general council at the next tribal meeting by the general council and the audience.
To the monthly tribal, monthly
It's not,
report of
I
the
don't mean,
backlog.
yeah, I don't mean the general council, I mean the monthly meeting.
And it did.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passed, all in favor. Okay, that passed. All right, moving on to other business.
I was just going to say.
The other business with the mid-year NCI.
Right. It's time to register for mid-year NCI. Verna, you want to talk about that?
National Congress of American Indians will have their mid-year conference on June 24th to 27th in Reno. I feel strongly that we need to be represented at these meetings. They have very good information. We have everything from education to veterans and elders programs. We also get support from other tribal people for the endeavors that we're doing. It has been very advantageous to us over the years, and I think we should definitely continue and be a strong presence.
To support our expansion into Kansas. NCAI Nationals this year is in Tulsa, which is really a treat because usually it's far off and it's hard to justify people going. But our tribe's going to be very involved this year and get to go down there. And some tribal members are interested in volunteering during the week, and it's a really neat process. And I encourage all of you, especially those of you that might be a little skeptical about people going to NCAI, to check out NCAI this year in Tulsa, or at least some of the events. Because we want to bring a resolution, because of the conference being in Tulsa, many of the Oklahoma tribes will be there this year, and we want to garner their support for our expansion of government services into Kansas. And we are told that it's essential to go to mid-year to start that politicking of that resolution.
Work on a resolution.
You're not bringing a cold resolution to the floor in the fall.
So do we need a motion for a representative to go?
We need more than one because there is too much going on.
Right.
That one person or even two cannot get all the necessary information.
And especially with that we have the purpose of lobbying, essentially, this resolution that we want to put on the floor, we probably need more than
I would say the very important thing is to attend as many of the various caucuses. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Of whether it be Southern Plains or Northwest, they may invite you to a caucus to explain.
Each morning, at NCAI, there are caucuses of the different regions to talk about the different issues within the regions. And that would be the duty of the people that went, was to go to all the regional caucuses throughout the week, not every day. Not the Eastern region every day, but to make sure they hit all the caucuses through the week to appropriately spread the good word.
Is that mid-year as large as the NCI, the annual?
It's probably 3/4.
It is, oh, so it's pretty good size.
Last year when Verna was out there, she was so excited. She called me and read the program to me and said, I can't decide which one to go to. she was just tickled over the agenda. It was good to see you.
So do we need to vote it tonight to send three people, or what you're thinking? What do you think, Chief, or Vern?
Not necessarily, if we just...
Sure to get in and pay registration.
Oh, yeah.
You have to have a little badge and they scan you when you walk into the room.
And the caucuses are at 7:30 in the morning. We start the day off going and talking with the regional caucuses. Then we go into general session. They have people from all different departments of the United States, and I can't begin to explain all the things that they have.
However, they do have a nice website that gives you a sample, or it gives you the agenda, and it keeps building as it gets closer to the event.
Charles?
Six Letters in Tulsa, what is the cost associated with it? I mean, we send people to these meetings other places. You can send a lot more people here to Tulsa than you could to other places.
Yeah, Tulsa, Reno, no, be in October.
Oh, this is Reno you're talking about now?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Right, and because it's in Tulsa, then we wouldn't have the hotel bills.
Right.
Yeah.
Tulsa, you can send a lot more people.
And if you went as a volunteer, we'll get more information on Wednesday.
We're going Wednesday to another planning session for the October meeting.
He just was mixed up.
Yeah.
I had told the chief, I said, I want the Delawares to have a seat at the table of that planning commission this year, and she got an invitation the next day. So we've been attending those meetings in Tulsa for the planning commission, but we'll ask for maybe a handout about what their volunteer policy is, because
We think that the volunteer policy is if you volunteer for half a day, then you get to go to they give you some credentials to go to half a day of meeting. Well, that's what they told us. And also, they are looking for an artist to do like the thing, the program cover. And so we'll have that information when we get back on Wednesday, what the theme is, I guess. And so if you know anybody in your family or friends that are Delaware artists, we would like to do that. We actually have Ruthie Blaylock Jones lined up too. She wants to participate. So if anyone wants to participate in that, we'll have that information. These guys are having such fun out there at that table.
They're watching YouTube.
Okay. So are we going to do a motion to review?
I can't find the special or
Well, the little council is one that they can do that.
And okay, so I guess I got a page over here. I
used up to 4 people in St. Joe.
think that's
Guess I can entertain a motion. Pronounce that.
I make a motion that we send up to 4 people to mid-year NCAI in Reno.
second.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Discussion? should be 3.
Is that
The reason I say that is because of the expense. Can we, unless we have the money for it, I mean, if you have the money for it, do you have a budget?
Well, it would be part of the pre-development funds because we were moving forward the Kansas concept.
Oh, okay. Okay,
She said up to 4, so.
right.
She carefully worded that.
Okay. Motion second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
No. One opposed. Abstention? Only one opposed, I guess.
No, I said aye.
Oh, you said, okay, 2 opposed. You, what, you opposed?
No, I'm not.
He would be a nay.
We have one opposition vote.
No, I'm for it.
Okay, and that is.
I said nay.
She promptly said nay after we all said yay.
Okay. Oh, I told you I was going to. I said I only thought 3 should go up to 4, doesn't mean 3 to me.
Well, 3 are going.
But we were just helping Nate, we weren't arguing with you, we just were helping Nate understand what's happening. That's giving us some leeway.
There.
Okay. You want to go there, talk.
Dawn, Mason had judges report.
Okay. Don, you have a judge's report. Please come forward.
Sovereignty Symposium is coming up.
Right.
Can you hear me? Okay. Sovereignty Symposium is coming up in early June. So the council needs to think about which judges and how many you want to send to Sovereignty Symposium and let us know. All 5 are interested in going, but I don't know if there's going to be the resources to do that. So I will leave that up to the council to figure that out.
Dawn, can you remind me of the date?
Early June, I don't have that with me. Charles, do you have those dates, Andy? I think it's like 4th, 5th, 6th. June 5th and 6th in Oklahoma City. It's the same place it was last year. It's at the Skirman. And it looks like it's going to be pretty good. A lot of good stuff there. It's going to have an interesting focus on judicial reform. And it's also going to have an interesting focus on energy development. A lot of interesting stuff going on with energy development right now. Putting it in land into trust and then building power plants on it and all sorts of cool stuff. I understand that Mickey Edwards, former congressman from Oklahoma City, will be there. David Walters, former governor, is going to be there. He's big in energy. Sandra Day O'Connor, former justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, will be keynote speaker. And she will probably speak as to something regarding Indian law and sovereignty because she's developed this specialty while on the court and especially after the court. She's continued to write and be active in Indian law. And so she goes all over the country to Indian events and talking about sovereignty. So that would be very interesting. June 5th and 6th.
And I was looking on the website, and there are 2 scholarships, it looks like, for the conference. That are, it looks like they are competition, but I think it would be worth applying for them.
Okay.
You know, too, Don, I was wondering if maybe, if you look at the whole year for 14 and pick out the ones that you guys want to go to and put it down so that they can be budgeted for, that, because I think it's very important that the judges get trained. And I think it's very important that there's funding for you all to be trained. And it's in Oklahoma City. It's not Reno, Nevada, or Arizona, or Alaska, or someplace. So if you had a kind of knew if you wanted to go to 3 next year or something, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I based that on a survey I did of the judges. I think Leslie sent me an email stating that the chief wanted to find out if there was any interest in going. And so that's what I did is I did a survey. And all 5 were interested. So that's what I'm reporting back is the survey I did. And then I'll let the powers that be figure out if you guys are interested in sending anyone to that. So keep us posted and we'll see what's up.
When are you supposed to get those reservations in?
Probably pretty quick. I mean, we're in early May, that's early June, so 4 weeks. And those rooms may go quick because last year, all the rooms are booked in the area because the Oklahoma City Thunder were in the finals. And if that goes again, then the competition for rooms in that area will be very fierce. And you don't want to wait late because I do know I talked to people last year who were there at the same time. And of course, they didn't know that the Oklahoma City Thunder were going to be in the finals. And so what the hoteliers in that area did was they gouged people who reserved rooms late for whatever reason. Because I talked to one guy, he paid $800 for a room in that area.
It's terrible.
And those rooms usually go for $125 to $200 in that area. And so what they did was they knew all the rooms were highly coveted, and so then they gouged everybody in that time frame.
I heard we were down there when the Thunder was there, and people had booked their rooms way in advance, but they got just bumped out of there.
Yeah, so the competition for the rooms is fierce.
Yeah.
So I'll let the powers that be discuss, but if you're interested in sending someone, or 2 or 3 or whatever it may be, I would make a decision as soon as convenient.
And I want to point out the registration fee increases if postmarked after May 15th. And then also there's another note that you could go on the 6th only. So you might, if the 3 judges that are here could grab a computer and look at the agenda and see, are you interested in both days, or maybe just interested in the one day? I'd like to see all of the judges go because, like we pointed out, it is in Oklahoma City, and there are a lot of very pertinent issues on the agenda.
All the other major Indian tribes make it a high point of sending their judges, and I think it would look good for us to do the same. And there's a lot of good and interesting stuff to learn in these things. So anyway, I throw it out there, and what I will do is I will look at the agenda, and then I will probably email some members of the council who have my thoughts about it, and then I'll talk to the other judges, because that's another item on my report. That is that on Friday, we will have a meeting with Libby Gray, the judges, and we're going to talk about judicial reform. And I think that will be a very interesting discussion. And we'll probably talk about sovereignty symposium then as well. We'll do another survey and we'll talk about that. I look forward to the talk with Libby. Libby and Chief Jim Gray have pleasantly surprised me. Admittedly, I have to admit something, and that was that I had some reservations about outsiders coming in and telling us how to do things. But to my surprise, they're both very likable, and they are encyclopedic. That is, that if you have a question, they're very good, and they're full of ideas, and they don't, at least so far, they haven't, a lot of people that carry an ego, and if you don't necessarily agree with all or some of their ideas, they get, offended, and they don't seem to be that way. And that's very, very good, and I'm very glad that we have her available. And on that same note, I've been talking to Libby about constitutional reform and revision. She says there is grant money out there to do that. We can even do a full-fledged constitutional convention. The working group, the planning group, seem to be very interested in that idea. But that is just an idea that's been thrown out there. Nothing is formal, for that matter, even informal, has been done about that. But I do know that the cause had some success with that. The Osages, Libby told me the Osages applied for that same grant, and they had a lot of good things that grew out of that. So that's something to think about, because we talked about our 3 branches of government and how they need to be better defined. We need a stronger executive, we need a better defined court, and then we need to also better define our council and those powers. And but those are just some ideas, mid to long range ideas, and that may be something that we're going to be working on later down the road. And the judges, through the judicial reform, may be touching on some of that too. Let's see. Child support is moving along. I'm very happy with what is going on there. We're staying on course. We need to start working on our code. I understand that there's some technicalities that have been worked out, and so that's going to get jump started, and we're going to jump right on in that, and it's going to be really, really good. And our ideas about Kansas and incorporating that into our vision for child support, I think that there may come a day in the near future, when I say near future, probably within a decade, that our tribal child support has the potential of being one of the largest in the region and if not the nation because of our service area, our numbers, and it really could be a shining star, which would be self-supportive. The council and our tribal government would not have to infuse any money into it. It would stand on its own. So it really would be it's going to be a really cool and neat thing. Takes time, we're working on it, but every day we're getting there. A building is built one brick at a time, so that's about the same way. And I was talking to Lacey, and she's going to work on WIC, I think, this summer. So WIC is going to be a wonderful complement to child support. And it's all coming together, I think, slowly in the social services arena. And then I was talking to some fellow tribal members about an idea. I emailed Jennifer about it, and I throw it out there for the council and any and all other Delaware to think about. That is, right now there are at least 5 candidates running for the at-large seat of the Cherokee Nation Council. The election, I believe, the Cherokee election is in mid or late June. Of the 5, it looks like to me that probably 3 are what I would consider serious candidates. I think that the Delaware should consider having a town hall some Saturday morning or afternoon, invite the at-large candidates to come, talk about why they want to be a Cherokee council member. No endorsements and no disendorsements. Everybody on good behavior and an opportunity to ask questions and to talk about why they want to be an at-large council person, because that council person works for us too. And I think it's very important that we start developing those ties, those allies on that council, especially as we're looking forward to bigger and better things in the future. And having Cherokee agreement, or at the very least complicity or silence, would be a good thing. So, anyway, that pretty much wraps up. Yep, that wraps up my judicial report. Anybody have any questions or etc.?
I want to ask a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Did you say there is grant money for Constitution reform?
Libby Gray has told me this, and I think there is. In fact, I'm going to throw this out there because I believe she said this to me. I'm going to have to reconfirm it with her to make sure that she actually did say this. But she said something in passing that one tribe received a $300,000 grant to do a tribal constitutional reform. And it was a very good process, and it really helped the tribe out tremendously. I know that the call received a $50,000 to $100,000 grant to do their reform work. That was.
And I think that those might have been under the ANA grants, under their SEDS and their social and economic development strategies.
Yeah.
And so each year they decide what subject the SEDS is going to focus on. And there are certain years that it is focused on tribal government. And I'm not sure. My memory fails me as to whether this one is or not. Primarily because that grant is 200 pages when you get it done writing it, and then there's like about 14 of them awarded.
Yeah, I don't know where we stand on that, but I do know this, though. Libby seems to be a real resource on that. And even if we don't get a grant, we can still start doing some of this on our own.
I agree.
Because,
we did it without a grant last
That's
time.
right. And, you've got several lawyers within the tribe and other people who have got a lot of common sense, and that we can come together and we can do it, It's just we have to make up our mind to do it. So, anyway.
Well, it's been done. We've got close 2 times to getting it reformed, so we got a lot of traction.
We talked about a convention. We even talked about maybe a convention where we elect anywhere from 15 to 21 members at large, and having a full-blown convention like the Cherokee did. And I think the call went down that route. we have, just like they did in 1906 and 7 in Guthrie, and just like they did in Philadelphia in 1787. And we come together and we hash it out for over a few months. This isn't something that happens over a weekend or a week. That group is elected and they come together and they really work on it for several months, and then it's submitted to the people. And a lot of the delegates end up becoming spokespeople for ratification. So it's a very interesting process and a hallmark. And also BIA will probably look very kindly on it. They like seeing try to do things like that. It shows stability and responsibility, accountability, all those good things.
When the Cherokees did their constitutional convention, before the convention, they had town hall meetings all across the country, and then they took the names of the people that showed up and drew them out of the box without election. I happen to be one of them that was on that, and trying to keep the Delaware information and support in there.
And I think that I mentioned Councilor Crawford when we were having this discussion, because she has actually had some experience with a tribal constitutional convention, and I think that would be very valuable. So
we were supposed to be there over the weekend. We were there about 5 days.
Yeah.
They got the projected constitution, they presented it to the convention, and we went over it daily, arguing points, and until we finally got to the end.
Did you divide out into committee?
Not at the convention, no.
Okay.
Was it Dallas?
Yes.
Because usually you can divide out into committee. That is, one group of people will work on executive branch, another committee will work on a legislative branch, one on legislative branch, and then there may be some miscellaneous issues that you want in your constitution, such as enrollment. And you can form a committee to study enrollment.
By the time they got to the convention, all of that work had been done. And so the whole convention in attendance went through the whole document at that time.
Who was chief, Joe Byrd or Chad Smith? Was right there in that transition?
I think it was Byrd.
Okay, that was at the very end of his term. Yeah. Anyway, judicial report, some ideas, think about town hall, and if you have any questions or otherwise, feel free to let me know. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Don.
I'd like to make a motion that we send up to 5 people to the Sovereignty Symposium, June 5th and 6th, based on funding availability.
A second. Okay. Any discussion?
I don't mean to sound like a dummy, but I thought we'd already approved for up to 4. Oh,
That's what I said.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, a second, to send up to 5 people, 5 judges to the sovereign.
That's just giving you some leeway.
Okay.
It's the chief one.
Okay, to the sovereign symposium, 5th and 6th of June. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Gardner.
Thank you.
Abstentions? Passed. All in favor? Last year I went down there the first day and did the parade in, and so that didn't cost us anything.
But I think it would be important for the chief to be there at least part of the time.
I was thinking that we might go on that 6th and not register, just go at 10 or 11. That's where everybody was. We went out and there was that balcony that kind of looked out, and we walked out there and I said, man, every chief is here. I'm so glad we didn't skip this.
It was a good place to be. Okay.
Chief, do we need to discuss moving the June council meeting?
June 10th.
No, yeah, we can move it to June 10th.
I so move.
Next one.
Jennifer may have a meeting.
We can't hear you. What do y'all talk about?
We're discussing moving the June tribal council meeting from the 3rd to the 10th. Because Jennifer and I have a meeting
Oh, okay.
in Texas on the 2nd, the 3rd.
Yeah, I said that, but I didn't look. Yeah. Do we need that in a motion? Okay.
Well, Ned made a motion.
I moved it. I said so moved.
Are you making a second? Okay.
Maybe a second.
Greg, could you make it really big on the website for us, or make it noticeable on the website for us that the meeting for June is being changed to June 10th?
It's just the council. Yes, trust board is going to be at 4 o'clock on here on the 3rd.
Change yours.
No, they don't need to. We've already set ours.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll have a trust board on the regular day.
What time will it be on the 16th?
6. You don't want to have. Or you have 5? People work. These people don't. The people that work till 5 walk here.
That's hard to say. I think they're all your employees.
Everybody's retired or employees.
June 10th at 5 o'clock?
5 p.m.
Okay.
Do you have a style on 5 p.m.?
No. Well, I'll add that to, I'll amend my motion to say that I make a motion we change the June 3rd meeting to June 10th at 5 p.m. right here.
Okay, motion second on the floor to change the June meeting from the 3rd to the 10th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passed. All in favor? All right.
Curtis, could we put some signs up in the lunchroom too, to make sure that that is known?
Yes, and I'll announce it at tomorrow's all-staff meeting, and we'll make prominent signage and information for everyone.
Well, is Jana going to make sure that we have the motion or the resolutions on the screen?
Right, Jana's going to bring a flash drive at the next meeting, and we're going to plug it in right
Okay,
then.
just a reminder, I wish. So we have another announcement to make. We're going to have an open house here and downstairs at the new social service building. That'll be the 22nd. That's a Wednesday. And it's going to be from 2 to 4. And who knows about it?
Jana's here, she could talk about it.
Jana, come forward and tell the audience about our plans.
I will. On May 22nd, from 2 to 4 p.m., we'll be having an open house and social services grand opening and ribbon cutting. The Chamber of Commerce for Bartlesville will come out and do our ribbon cutting ceremony. We'll also have Dee Ketchum do the smoke off and a prayer. We'll have refreshments here in the cafeteria with the chief and probably some remarks from the chief. We did
on the cafeteria, look at the new offices for the chief. So we kind of wanted to just have an open house where they could see all the wonderful things that are going on here. Any questions?
Jenna?
Thank you. Everybody's going to be here, right? So in conjunction with this, we have talked about joining the chamber. Maybe we need a motion on the floor. It's $500. Jana?
Yes, ma'am.
$500.
To join the chamber.
500.
Yeah, that's what they were asking.
Yes, but there are lots of perks that come along with that. There's some training opportunities. The chamber will come out and they do some training at Tech, and oh gosh, there were a whole host
They have
of
business
things.
after hours. They do the small business workshops, the
Meet and greet.
professional women's workshops.
Yeah, there's a multitude of things.
Yeah.
One of the things I think that would be wonderful for us is getting our name out there, doing meet and greets, because that will help us with grants. If we can start partnering with other nonprofits, it will help bring in, grant opportunities for our tribal citizens for services so that they can enjoy those services. So I really think it's a good partnership to join the Chamber of Commerce. It's really an investment that I think that we will get return on very quickly.
And anytime you have an event, they can hit their email list with it. I work with them real close out at ADB. Hosted the business after hours. They do that the first Thursday of every month at different businesses. It brings a lot of people into your facility from every business that belongs there.
Well, if
To
we
see what you're doing, it's just everything I've ever had to do with Sherry has been very positive.
She was wonderful. When they came out and spoke with us, we also talked about our elders lunch and how now that we have the new cafeteria or the new kitchen facilities, we could really have a lot more people here. We could offer those services to a lot more of the community. So we're hoping that in joining the chamber, we'll be able to see an increase in that. People need to know about our services. A lot of people don't even know we're up here. And who knows what will happen with our enrollment once we kind of do some advertising and get the good news out that we have some great things going on here.
Yeah.
So we need to advertise that. We need to focus on the positive for a while instead of just the negative. So that's my take on it.
Okay, next question. Motion. Chamber. Did I say? Somebody ought to make a motion?
I do that.
Okay, I second. Somebody else can second. I don't have to. Any other comments? Okay. I already had you down. Just make the motion. She's good. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Passed. All in favor? And I join the Chamber of Commerce. Any other business to be brought before this council? Anybody else have anything to bring before the council?